Hey, Anime Start crew. Get ready for a wild ride as we explore a what-if scenario in the world of My Hero Academia. In this special series, we're imagining a love story between Deku and Femme Todoroki. It's the beginning of something extraordinary, so hit subscribe, like, and that notification bell. This is What If Deku and Femme Todoroki Fell in Love, Part 1, only on Anime Stark. Let's dive in. 10 years later. The sun shone like the light in the darkness, entering through a window where you could see green hair moving restlessly to the incessant sound of the clock beside it, forcing itself to look lost at him, realizing what time it was. Oh, what a bother. But what the heck, it's late, I have to change quickly, or I'll be late for school. And Akane-chan, said the green-haired one, hastily throwing the sheets to the floor, grabbing a black jacket from his chair without looking, and rushing out the door. I told you he overslept, his mother laughed, hearing another laugh accompanying her. Come on, it's going to be late for school, son, Inko said, amused by Izuku's irresponsibility, hearing him seemingly stumble around. I'm coming, Mom, Izuku said, choking on the pasta in his mouth and falling to the floor loudly. Then, the green-haired one descended the stairs to find his mother sitting, sipping orange juice, while Akane was calmly sitting, holding a glass of the same juice. Akane-chan. What are you doing here? Izuku said, puzzled by Akane's presence in his home, walking sorely and taking a chair. Well, I'm here because your mom invited me for breakfast yesterday, and if I don't come every morning, you'll never get up for school. You know, you should stop watching All Might videos so late, Akane said calmly, sipping the juice and preparing to fix Izuku's disheveled collar. You know, if you want me to sleep with you to wake up earlier, you could ask. There, done, Akane said casually, making an effort to perfectly align Izuku's collar, embarrassing him with her statement. Well, you might be right, Izuku said, smiling, ruffling Akane's hair, irritating her. You really like to have breakfast with danger, Orion, Akane said, returning her hair to its original position, glaring at Izuku with a murderous instinct. Son, eat quickly. I wouldn't want the future #1 hero to be weak, his mother said, raising her fist in a vain attempt to save her son from a possible death. Sure, Mom, Izuku said cheerfully, completely ignoring the hostility Akane was giving him. Silly, you know, even though I have short hair, I make an effort to make it look good. Do you even notice? Akane said, sighing disappointedly, leaning on Izuku's shoulder. After eating, Izuku and Akane decided it was time to leave, bidding a cheerful farewell to Inko, who wished them luck, not before pulling Akane towards her, saying something that only both of them could hear. We're leaving now, Mrs. Inko. Thanks for inviting me for breakfast, everything was delicious, Akane said, smiling and nodding at her request. True, Mom, your katsudon is the best in the world, Izuku said, drooling, pushed out by Akane. I'm glad you liked it. Akane-chan, say hi to Rei for me, please, Inko said, waving her hand and winking. Of course, goodbye, Akane said, bowing respectfully. POV Izuku. After leaving my house, I was thinking about what had happened since I met Akane, from meeting her family to how Kachan became even more violent. But my thoughts are interrupted by Akane-chan. Hey, Izuku-kun, my mom said you could come to dinner this evening. Uncle Toshi wants to talk to you, Akane said, watching mesmerized as the beautiful cherry blossoms gracefully fell to the ground, briefly directing her eyes towards me. All right, just tell me the time, I said, sketching quickly in my notebook, arousing curiosity in Akane. It'll be after school. I have a watch here, and the parting of my hair is right in the middle. Although, for the rest, you captured my anatomy perfectly, Akane said, resting her cheek on my shoulder, pointing out the mistakes in my drawing that portrayed her. All right, but let's hurry. I don't want to be late, I said, almost running, closely followed by Akane. If you woke up earlier, we'd make it to school on time, Akane said, a little annoyed, sending a tiny energy projectile to Izuku's head. Did you say something? I said, rubbing the sore spot. Wait for me, don't leave me behind, Akane said, running even faster, matching my speed, evading the sharp look from the person beside us. Rotten half and half, Akane muttered disdainfully. Damn half and half, said the figure sitting, holding one of the cherries resting in his lap, showing a lost frown. After a long run to our classroom, we had finally arrived, relieved to see that the bell had not rung yet. Well, we almost didn't make it, I said, wiping away sweat, receiving a water bottle from an exhausted Akane. Yes, but tomorrow when I come to get you, I hope you're ready for school, or I'll freeze you, Akane said, with an intimidating aura, downing a water bottle. All right, Akane-chan, I said nervously, going to my seat. All right, young ones, you're third-year students, and you need to think about your future. Now, let's see what you plan to do after leaving middle school. But the truth is, who are we kidding? Everyone wants to be heroes, the teacher said, tossing the papers, startling Akane, who was still not fully recovered from exhaustion. All the students, except Kachan, Akane-chan, and me, began to use their quirks, stopping at the teacher's signal. Calm down. Now we'll see which high school each of you will enter. Bakugo, you'll go to UA, the teacher said, reviewing the papers we submitted, analyzing the choices we made. Of course, I'll do it. Don't compare me to these extras, Kachan said arrogantly, pointing at me with disdain. Egomaniac with a walnut brain, Akane said, simulating a cough and hiding her mouth with one of her hands. Todoroki and Midoriya will also do it, the teacher said, looking at both of us, getting a slight nod. Damn Deku, how dare you try to enter UA without a quirk? You're useless, Kachan said, causing explosions and encountering a small ice wall that stopped his attack. Damn half and half, how dare you get in my way, Kachan said, breaking the wall and fixing his gaze on Akane, who limited herself to jotting something down in my notebook without bothering to look directly at her. Calm down, Bakugo, leave Izuku-kun alone, I said coldly, closing my notebook and giving a complex look to Kachan. Shut up, damn it, don't get involved in something that doesn't concern you, Kachan said, slamming his hands on Akane's desk. Of course it concerns me, because he's my best friend, Akane said, smirking slightly, surprising those who had never received the slightest reaction from her. TSK, who said you're his best friend? Kachan said, smiling while an eye twitched, resisting the growing need to slam Akane against her chair. Well, I've been with him for the past few years, supporting and protecting him from people like you. His mom invites me to their house, we hang out on weekends, play video games together, and watch movies. Oh, and he himself told me. What more proof do you need? Akane said, killing her previous smile in a second, turning into a devastating coldness. TSK, shut up, Kachan couldn't finish because the teacher interrupted. Bakugo, back to your seat. Now, we'll continue with the class, the teacher said with authority. Kachan obeyed the teacher's words. After the class, Akane and I were on our way to her house. Passing under a tunnel, a villain with green slime tried to grab me, but Akane-chan froze him. At that moment, a muscular and blonde hero appeared, none other than All Might himself. Everything is fine. Why? Because I'm here, All Might said with his characteristic smile. At that moment, I got excited about what the hero said, so much that I fainted. A few minutes later. What happened? Where am I? I said disoriented, holding my head in pain. Well, you're in a tunnel, Akane said, stroking my hair, pulling my head back to her soft touches. Are you feeling okay? Akane asked, leaning slightly to make eye contact, letting some of her hair fall on my face. Yes. More or less, I said, sitting up, avoiding letting Akane see my atomic blush, causing her to tilt her head, wondering what was happening. And the villain, what happened to him? I said, looking around anxiously for the villain. I have him, young one. Don't worry, I'll hand him over to the police, All Might said, putting the container where he had captured the villain. All Might, is it really you? I said nervously, screaming with joy. Of course, it's me, young one, All Might said with humor, greeting me. Can I have your autograph? I said excitedly, taking out my notebook like lightning and handing it to him. But I already gave it to you. Look at your notebook, All Might said with a smile, laughing. Oh, right, thanks, I said cheerfully, treating that signature as a treasure. Well, young ones, I have to go be a hero, All Might said, preparing to jump. Wait, I said quickly, holding his leg tightly. Being a hero doesn't allow you to waste time, sorry, All Might said without paying much attention, proceeding to jump. As he jumped, I was shot along with All Might. Realizing, he tried to move away, but quickly, before clarifying the deadly fall that awaited me if that happened, he stopped on a building ledge. Young man, what you did was dangerous, All Might said seriously, reprimanding me for my action. I'm sorry, but I have a question for you, I said confidently, pushing aside any signs of anxiety. Well, since we're here, go ahead, All Might said, sighing, indicating that he would answer. The question is, can a person without a quirk become a hero? I said, determined not to falter despite my shaky legs, eager for the answer. Before All Might could answer, he was surrounded by a smoke curtain. After it dispersed, Mr. Toshi could be seen. "Mr. Toshi, you're All Might," I said, almost unconscious from the surprise. "Well, young Midoriya, it seems I can't hide it anymore. I am All Might," said Mr. Toshi, looking down, wiping some blood from his mouth. "But what happened? Why can he take that muscular form, and why is he back to normal now?" I asked, moving my fingers around, processing it. "It's from a wound I got a long time ago in a fight against a villain," he said, sounding down, as if remembering something unpleasant. "Oh, and who was that villain?" I asked with interest, trying to figure out which villain from my collection could compare to All Might. "His name is," Mr. Toshi began but couldn't finish. "Explosions?" I exclaimed in surprise, peering over the edge of the roof, seeing a trail of smoke in the distance. "I'm sorry, young Midoriya, but you must go help. We'll continue the conversation later," said All Might, transforming into his muscular form and jumping off the balcony. After descending from the building, I headed towards the explosions. To my surprise, the villain causing the disturbance was the same slime villain who had tried to control me before. I remembered grabbing his leg, realizing that might be why he had escaped. However, before I could continue my train of thought, the villain turned, revealing he had Bakugo as a hostage and had caused all this chaos with his explosions, creating a deep pit in my stomach as countless civilians fled in fear from the debris. "Damn it, I have to help her," I said, running through the crowd, repeatedly colliding with people. I took numerous hits, but the fear of seeing Bakugo die gave me the strength to keep going. "Leave her alone," I shouted, throwing my backpack at the villain. "You little brat, you'll pay for this," the villain said angrily, aiming an explosion at me. "Deku, what are you doing here?" Bakugo, almost unconscious, asked, struggling not to fall. "It looked like you needed help," I said with a shaky smile, considering every possibility. All of this was being observed by pro-heroes and journalists, who felt powerless to intervene properly and direct the evacuation of civilians out of danger. "Move forward, we don't have all day," said a hero with a reptilian appearance, pushing the crowd as quickly as possible. "That's all, ma'am. The east sector has also been evacuated. The firefighters report no injuries," said a short girl with striking red eyes in a spiral pattern, striking a military pose. "Well done, Tsuchi-kun. I'll tell that idiot to ask you out when this is over," the hero said, winking at her apparent assistant. "What? But. It's not the time for jokes, boss," Tsuchi said, blushing noticeably, arms crossed. As they observed, a figure focused on the situation. "No, continue with your work," the hero said decisively, running toward the center of the battle. The man bit his lip, feeling powerless. "Why aren't the pro-heroes doing anything?" a reporter asked, astonished by the passivity of all the heroes. "Heroes have really fallen from grace. I can't believe a kid is more capable than 3 heroes, a civilian commented, witnessing the scene. "While I tried to free Bakugo, it was useless. The villain was getting stronger, and she was on the verge of passing out. No, Bakugo, don't faint. I promise, when this is over, you can hit me as much as you want," I said desperately, tearing parts of the villain but feeling my nails being ripped from their roots. "You brat, get off. Go away if you don't want to die," the villain said, hitting me and knocking me to the ground, enjoying the sound of bones crunching. "A hero doesn't abandon anyone in need. A hero saves them with a smile, regardless of risking their own life," I said, getting up, wiping the blood from the corners of my mouth. Back with the reporters and civilians, they were scared by my state. "Oh, this kid is a true hero," a civilian said. "It's true," another civilian added. "I can't let such a talented kid die here," said the scrawny man, transforming into a muscular form. Back with me, the villain tried to hit me with Bakugo's explosions, but something happened. "Texas Smash," a voice shouted, hitting nothing, creating a strong rush of air and bursts. Upon receiving the bursts of air, the villain released Bakugo and tried to escape but was stopped by the pro-heroes who were there. "Young Midoriya, are you okay?" said the voice. "Of course, I'm fine." "Oh, but it's you, All Might," I said, a bit dazed. "I'm sorry, young man. If I hadn't taken so long, you wouldn't have had to risk yourself," All Might said, ashamed of himself. "Don't worry, All Might. It was nothing. That's what a hero does," I said, proudly giving a thumbs up. I proceeded to gather my scattered belongings from when I threw my backpack, but before I could do so, the pro-heroes approached. "You're crazy, kid. You could have died," said a hero, shaking me by the shoulders. If not stupid, said a heroine. Kids are so foolish, said another hero. Hey, leave him alone. The young man is tired and probably injured. Save your lectures for another time, said the heroine from before, standing in front of me and shooing away the heroes. Hey, kid, you did a good job back there, she said, smiling masterfully, leaving something in my hand. Before they could scold me again for saving Bakugo, all the reporters and civilians started defending me against the heroes. Leave the kid alone, said a civilian. Don't bother him. He did what you couldn't, second-rate heroes. He's a real hero, said another civilian. I felt moved that people recognized me as a hero, experiencing a great sense of pride in myself. Young man, let's go find young Akane, said All Might, intending to avoid the reporters harassing him. Sure, All Might, let's go, I said, trying to leave with him. Izuku-kun, said a soft, irritated voice, stopping my progress. All Might and I turned to see who the voice belonged to, and we saw Akane-chan running towards us. Midoriya Izuku, how could you do something so reckless? You could have died, you idiot, Akane-chan said, annoyed, hitting my arm and then forcing me into a hug. Sorry, Akane-chan, but I couldn't help it. You know it's something I do on impulse, I said, trying to calm her without even daring to pull away. Yeah, I know that perfectly. But what bothers me the most is that you left me stranded in that alley. You know, I've been looking for you all this time. While doing so, I saw on TV a display where you were trying to save the explosive blonde, Akane said, pouting, looking into the distance as Bakugo was attended to by paramedics. How cute, I'm really sorry, Akane-chan, but there's something I want to ask you, I said calmly, carefully pulling away from Akane, sighing in relief. Yes, tell me what you want to ask, Akane said, curious, adjusting my disheveled uniform. Do you know Mr. Toshi's secret? I asked seriously, taking her hands. Actually, yes. I was planning to tell you, but he asked me not to because he wanted to observe you without you knowing. And obviously, if you knew you had the symbol of peace nearby, you wouldn't be calm, Akane said, smiling eagerly, tucking one of her reddish strands behind her ear. Oh, I see, I said, smiling, finally letting out my pent-up mood. Excuse us, young ones, but I think we're late for dinner, said All Might, covering his mouth to prevent others from seeing him cough up blood. Oh, right, I forgot. We should hurry, or Mrs. Ray will be upset, I said, terrified, slinging my backpack over my back, letting go of one of Akane's hands, and running out of sight of the others. Wait. Hey. I know Mom might leave us without dinner, but there's no need to run, Akane said, trying to keep up with my pace. Come on, young ones, hold on to my back, and we'll get there faster, said All Might, crouching a bit for us to climb, but seeing no action from us, he watched us as we moved away. The reporters tried to speak, but it was too late as All Might jumped so high that he disappeared from view. Walking on a lonely street, at that moment, All Might resumed his emaciated appearance, falling in front of us. It seems time is up, said All Might, covered in a cloud of smoke. All Might, how did your time run out? I asked, interested, drawing it in my notebook. I'll tell you when we get to Akane-chan's house, Mr. Toshi said, clearing his throat. I understand, I said, curious about what he would tell me, feeling two soft things brushing against my arm. End of Izuku's POV. They began walking towards the Todoroki residence. At that moment, Izuku and Toshi began talking about what happened today, while Akane stoically admired the face of the one she considered her hero, paying attention to every gesture Izuku made, captivated by those sweet emerald eyes that could overwhelm anyone. She couldn't help but let her mind travel to the day when he could become part of her family. Flashback. We can see Izuku walking, being pulled enthusiastically by Akane, leading him to what seemed to be her house. With every step, Izuku's heart felt like it was trying to escape from his chest, overwhelmed by the idea of what his friend's family would be like. Akane-chan, are you sure your parents won't mind if I come to your house? Izuku asked hesitantly, weakly trying to loosen Akane's grip, but it was futile. Of course, Izuku-kun, there's no problem at all. In fact, my mother wants to meet you to thank you for saving me from the explosive girl, Akane said with a smile that instantly gained Izuku's trust. Why, don't you want to meet my family? I'm sorry if you felt obligated, it wasn't my intention, she added, whispering her emotions. Of course, I want to meet them, Izuku said, smiling calmly, returning the energy to Akane, who held him even tighter and started running. Then let's not waste time, dear Orion, Akane said, making Izuku blush as he observed her dazzling smile. Look, it's right there, she added, stopping in front of a beautiful house, opening the gate and gently pushing Izuku inside. Mama, we're here, Akane cheerfully announced, shivering a bit as someone shouted from the kitchen. In the kitchen, said a woman's voice, irritating Izuku, who seemed reluctant to continue. But I told you I didn't start the fight, mother. I just defended a girl from some abusive idiots, another, younger voice said angrily, followed by some painful groans. Toya, you broke one of their forearms. What do you have to say about that? The woman sighed, tired of the boy's attitude. You never support me. I'm always to blame for everything, even when I do something good for others, the boy said, starting to sob in frustration. Of course, I support you, Toya. However, you must know that doing things like this could get you into trouble. What if your flames had gone out of control? What happened when they got out of your hands? Look at yourself, darling, you have serious burns. I know you have a great sense of altruism in that head of yours, but you have to know what will happen to you before you act. None of us would be happy if you got hurt, the woman said, kneeling at her son's level, gently caressing his hair, drying his tears. Besides, didn't you promise your sister that you wouldn't hurt yourself anymore? Right, aka Kun? She added, turning her gaze towards the kitchen entrance, noticing a bicolor hair quickly peeking out and then revealing part of her face. You fought again, you're silly, Toya, Akane said, slowly entering the kitchen and approaching her brother. I'm fine, Akane-chan. It's nothing. The other two fared worse, Toya said, smiling dazzlingly as Akane buried her face in his abdomen. I don't care, you're hurt, stupid big brother. You promised you wouldn't do such things anymore. I hate you, Akane said, repeatedly hitting the spot. Sorry, don't cry, little snowflake, Toya said, messing up Akane's hair to calm her. If you do it again, I won't talk to you. I won't let you read any books to me again, Akane said, stepping back with a look full of anguish. Before Toya could respond, the door was flung open, revealing a white-haired girl who looked unrealistically similar to Akane and their mother. The amazing sister who adores her little brothers has arrived. AKA Kun, come here and give your sister a kiss, the girl said loudly, receiving a slap from a figure behind her. Natsu, that was cruel. You shouldn't hit your sister. I won't bless you with my grace the next time you want to perform the art of seduction, she added, inflating her cheeks in irritation and crossing her arms. Shut up, antisocial nerd hikikomori, Natsuo said, moving her out of the way with embarrassment. Hey, I'm not a hikikomori. I have plenty of friends. Who gets you dates in the end, huh, ungrateful? She said, irritated, scanning the kitchen and stopping at Toya's scene. Again, it's the 6th time this week. Mom, freeze him for being unruly, she said, running towards Toya, inspecting his condition and observing the terrible burns on his arms with concern. I'm coming, there's no need to shout, Fuyumi, Natsuo said, aware of his brother's next move, as he opened his mouth to whistle, being silenced. You're an idiot, I'm a level 110 healer, but even I have my limits, Fuyumi said, emitting translucent ice as clear as water to help with Toya's burns, receiving some bandages from Natsuo. You won, Natsuo said disinterestedly, taking an apple from the table and biting into it. Yes, dear, wait in the dining room, your father and brothers will be here in a moment, Akane's mother said from the kitchen. I kicked their butts. You should have seen them, they cried like little girls, Toya said, laughing, feeling Fuyumi pinching one of his burns with a look that didn't bode well. Sorry you had to see that, Izuku, right? Akane's mother approached him, and behind her, her children bickered. I was just laughing, Mrs. Todoroki, Izuku said, being stopped by a stronger squeeze as he watched the woman close her eyes with a creepy aura that almost made him fall. No, Mrs., I was just laughing, Rei said, returning to her peaceful aura after Izuku nodded incessantly. You're going to squeeze his cheeks, Rei, a harsh voice said, making Rei smile, turning her attention to him. But look at him, Enji, he's as adorable as a kitten. Doesn't this face remind you of something? Rei said, taking Izuku's nose gently while laughing. Daddy, Akane said, approaching and glaring at her father. Napoleon ice cream, Enji said, giving her the same expression devoid of expression. How was your day? Akane asked, smiling adorable while hugging Enji's leg. Great, Akane. You seem very happy today, Enji said, lifting Akane and giving her a little spin, making her laugh. Well, today I brought my friend, remember? You said you'd come to dinner to meet him, Akane said, playing timidly with her fingers. Oh, Dad, Toya got into a fight at school again, she added, narrowing her eyes and staring at Toya, who was being cheerfully treated by Fuyumi. Traitor, Toya muttered, annoyed, as Akane stuck her tongue out at him. Oh, and he won, Enji said, smiling proudly, to which Toya nodded, accentuating his smile. Enji, Rei said, smiling gently, covered in a dark mist that intimidated everyone. Everyone to your places, dinner is ready, and your young man is grounded until someone defeats Sub-Zero. Understand? Rei said, pulling Toya's ear. Old witch, Toya said, crossing his arms childishly. Respect your mom, idiot, Fuyumi said, hitting his head, injuring him. Don't be shy, Izu-kun, sit down. I bet my cooking will dazzle you, Rei said, guiding Izuku to the table, where surprisingly everyone was already seated. Well, Izuku said, taking a seat next to Akane, who offered him a rice ball while she was devouring several. Again, apologies for our behavior, Izu-kun. We don't want to give you a bad impression of our family, Rei said, bowing, followed by everyone else. We don't want to scare off aka Kun's hero, Fuyumi added suggestively, instantly reprimanded by a Natsuo's toe. You're the one scaring off our friends. That's why mine and Toya's friends don't come anymore, our strange sister terrifies them, Natsuo said, rubbing his temples, worried about Fuyumi's odd behavior. Hey, that's not true, Natsu. I'm not that weird. I mean, I just showed Toya's friends my coin collection, and maybe I did a maid cosplay once when your friends came over, but I thought guys like that, Fuyumi said, embarrassed, starting to eat. That's exactly the problem. I have to prevent those perverts from assaulting you. That's why they don't come anymore, Natsuo whispered, putting some miso on a spoon. Do you like onigiri, Orion? Fuyumi asked, offering a rice ball to Izuku's face, wiping away his tears as Akane blushed intensely. I shouldn't have said that, right, Archmage? Fuyumi added, laughing nervously. It was our secret, Fuyu, Akane said, covering her face with both hands. Well, it's not a big deal. It doesn't seem to bother him, Fuyumi said, laughing as she saw Izuku timidly take the rice ball. Look at him, so adorable. Come on, eat more. Maybe we can adopt him, or better yet, aka Kun can marry him. You're going to marry him, right? Fuyumi said, delighted, noticing Izuku's vulnerable expression. Shut up, Akane said, slamming her face against the table, writhing as her face burned. Leave him alone, Fuyumi, Rei said, covering her mouth to avoid laughing. What a killjoy, just trying to make him feel more secure with us, darn, Fuyumi said, making a cute pout in the eyes of her family. Thank you, Izu-kun, for saving my daughter from those bullies. Our family is extremely grateful for your bravery, Rei said, serving more food to Izuku. Right. What's your quirk, Izuku? You already have 4. It must be amazing if you could fight against so many enemies. Are you super strong, can you fly, shoot webs? Fuyumi asked excitedly, shaking Izuku's shoulder a bit. You haven't even introduced yourself, and you're already asking those things, Natsuo said, shaking his head. Ah, yes, right. I'm Fuyumi Todoroki, the family healer. I'm 13 years old and go to middle school. However, don't let my appearance deceive you, I'm super strong, Fuyumi said, making some strange gestures that seemed amazing to Izuku. Natsuo Todoroki, 12 years old, also in middle school, Natsuo said, poking his face a bit out from behind Fuyumi, gesturing an apology with his expression. Toya, 15 years old, in middle school, Toya said, eating without even looking at Izuku. Enji Todoroki, Japan's number 2 hero, Enji said, proudly smiling at his title, making Izuku's eyes gleam with excitement. Yeah, lots of love. Nice to meet you all and stuff. Now, what's your quirk, Orion? Fuyumi asked, hopeful, getting too close to Izuku's face, blushing him. Beautiful. Izuku said, trying to move away, but it was useless against Fuyumi's insistence. I'm Rei Todoroki, the mother of these cute and curious kids, Rei said, pushing Fuyumi away, sitting her back down, and putting candy in her mouth. I don't have a quirk, Izuku suddenly said, making everyone fall silent, expectant, creating a void in his stomach from the attention. Then how did you save Akane from those thugs? Natsuo asked, interested, exchanging a furtive glance with Fuyumi. Well, I threw something at Kachan. Then I hit another one of his friends, and they beat me up, Izuku said, lowering his head. I'm sorry, I know I'm not worthy of Akane-chan, but I really like being her friend. Please let me continue to be one, Izuku said, sadly holding back the tears that threatened to come out uncontrollably. Wow, you fought at a disadvantage, unarmed and bravely. Hey, aka Kun, if you don't take him, I will. Look at him, all cute and brave. I wouldn't mind waiting a few more years, Fuyumi said, throwing herself to hug him possessively, rubbing her face against his. That must have been great, Izuku. I respect you, said Natsuo, nodding in agreement with Fuyumi. Oh, I hope they didn't hurt you too much, Izu-kun. Did you make sure to take him to a safer place afterward, aka Kun? Exclaimed Rei, alarmed, holding her utensils tightly as she noticed Akane's silence. Does it bother you that I'm quirkless? Asked Izuku, overwhelmed by the affection Fuyumi was showing him, calming his heart. Don't worry, kid. In our family, we're not like those idiots who discriminate against others just for not having a quirk. In fact, I had a friend who didn't have a quirk, and he still wanted to be a hero who would save everyone with a smile. You remind me of him, Enji complimented, thinking it was a pure display of heroism. How foolish to judge a human for something they can't control, Toya said, earning Izuku's admiration. Did you like the food, Izu-kun? Rei asked, trying to dispel the tense atmosphere. Of course, Mrs. Rei, it's delicious, Izuku replied, leaving behind his apprehension and quickly devouring his plate. Hey, I'm the glutton here. If you want my title, you have to earn it. How about a competition? I like that look, Fuyumi said enthusiastically, starting to devour her food, much to the amusement of her family. After a pleasant dinner, everyone began to chat amiably until the door was knocked. It's safe, everyone said, except Enji. Darn, Enji muttered, rising from his seat and walking towards the door. Rei, dear, I think you're going to like this visitor, he said, smiling provocatively at the figure in front of him. Long time no see, Flamey, said a voice recognized by Izuku. Oh, who? Inko-tan, is that you, Inko-tan? Rei exclaimed, eyes widening in surprise and nostalgia. Raiden, how? How have you been? Inko said, smiling anxiously as she saw the indescribable expression on Rei's face, approaching her. You're an idiot. Where have you been all these years? Where did you go? What did you do? You said you'd call me. Did that idiot Hyashi do something to you? Answer me, Rei said, shaking Inko's shoulders anxiously. Mom, do you two know each other? Izuku asked, concerned about the heavy atmosphere between the two adults. Know her, Izu-kun? I was her friend. I am her friend, her comrade in arms, Rei said, looking at Izuku with eyes full of emotion. Forgive me, Rei. A lot has happened, Inko said, avoiding Rei's gaze. Forgive you? Let me see. You left school without telling me, ran away with that messy-haired guy, disappeared for 10 years, then I get a letter a few months later saying you'll contact me, which you didn't. You kept me on edge all this time. I didn't know if you were still alive or what happened to you. I think not, Rei said, releasing Inko, irritated. Where is that idiot? I have to teach him a lesson about what happens when he takes away my best friend, Rei said, holding her head invaded by a phantom headache. He's not here anymore, Rei, Inko said, smiling sadly, causing Rei's blood to freeze, losing any trace of annoyance in her expression. What happened? Rei asked, astonished by the news. I don't think this is a good place or time to discuss it. We can talk tomorrow after we take the kids to school, Inko said, shaking off the pessimistic thoughts threatening to take over. Fine, Rei said dryly. I think you have to go now, right? It was nice to meet you. Hope to see you tomorrow, Rei said, caressing Izuku's cheeks lovingly. Who is she, Mom? Fuyumi asked, interested, peeking between Toya's back. She's Aunt Inko, your mother's incredibly neglectful friend, Rei said, sighing tiredly. You've done a good job with Izuku, Hyashi would be happy with how well you raised him. He's a very peculiar child. Oh, you forgot this when you left, Rei said, rummaging in her purse and handing Inko a photo. Rei. Thank you, Inko said, looking at the photo with nostalgia. Don't lose it, or I swear I'll stop being your airheaded friend, Rei said, smiling teasingly. Don't lose it, or I swear I'll stop being your airheaded friend, Rei said, smiling teasingly. Of course, little Rei, Inko replied, returning the gesture, causing Rei to laugh. See you, Inko, Rei said, entering the house, followed by most of the others. See you tomorrow at school, Izuku-kun, Akane said, hugging him protectively. Flashback POV. After a few minutes of walking, Izuku and his friends arrived at Akane's house. Upon entering, they found Rei watching television. Hi, Mom, we're back, Akane greeted her mother. Yes, dear, said the white-haired woman. Hello, Mrs. Ray, how are you? Izuku asked. Izuku, how many times have I told you to call me mother-in-law? Ray said with a sweet smile, but a hint of mischief. Mom, don't say things like that. Blushed Akane. Okay, mother-in-law, Izuku said with a smile. Izuku, don't play along with my mom, Akane said, annoyed with the green-haired guy. Well, your mom is very funny, Izuku replied. Let's eat, Ray changed the subject, amused by teasing her daughter. We'll wait for my father-in-law and my brothers-in-law, Izuku said to annoy Akane. Midoriya Izuku, Akane exclaimed, irritated. No, Enji and Toya won't be back until tomorrow, Fuyumi is busy with her work, and Natsuo had a date, the white-haired woman explained. Toshi, we could come in, I need to talk to young Midoriya, Toshi requested. Sure, come in, Ray gestured with her hand. After entering, Toshi and Izuku sat on the living room sofas. Well, young man, continuing with what we were talking about on the rooftop, all for one, a villain with the power to steal others' quirks, inflicted this injury on me over 20 years ago. We had a deadly battle where I emerged victorious, but I ended up with this injury that limits me to being a hero for only 3 hours a day, Toshi explained seriously. That explains why you have that form, but what I've always wondered is, what is your quirk? Izuku asked, equally serious. Young man, my quirk is somewhat complicated to explain, but I'll make an effort for you to understand. My quirk's name is One for All. It's a quirk that passes from generation to generation like a torch protecting peace, Toshi said, emitting a rainbow energy from his palm. Wow, amazing. But what's its history? Izuku asked, taking out his notebook to jot down. Tell me, do you know what happened when quirks first appeared? Toshi inquired. Yes, the first people to manifest them were treated as abominations and monsters by society, to the point that they were on the brink of rebelling. But someone unified them, though we don't know who, Izuku replied thoughtfully. The person who unified them was All for One. He planned to use the quirks of those people to control Japan. He had a brother who apparently had no quirk, so, on a whim, he granted him the power to store energy. However, he didn't anticipate that his brother had the seemingly useless quirk of passing on his quirk, which, when combined with the energy-storing quirk, created One for All. His brother tried to stop him, but lacking sufficient power, he was defeated. So, he decided to pass that power on to the next generation so they could accomplish what he couldn't. Over several generations, One for All has passed through various bearers, reaching me, the 8th bearer of this torch, Toshi explained, more solemnly. Izuku was completely surprised by what his idol said. Wow, that's amazing, said Izuku. Yes, it is, young man. But unfortunately, my time as a hero is ending. That's why I've spent these last years looking for a successor to my power, and I've finally found one, Toshi said happily. Who is it? Asked Izuku. It's you, young Izuku. From the moment you saved Akane, I observed your great hero spirit, how even knowing you would get hurt, you had the courage to sacrifice your well-being for someone else. Today, you confirmed my decision by saving that blonde girl, Toshi said with a smile. Izuku was more than astonished by Toshi's words. He couldn't believe that his greatest idol, the one he admired the most, was giving him the opportunity to become a hero. Thank you, All Might, for trusting in me, said Izuku, tears streaming down his face. And to answer your question about whether you can be a hero? You can become a hero. Not just any hero, but the greatest hero the world has ever known, Toshi said, pointing at Izuku. After Toshi spoke, 2 voices were heard, crying just like Izuku. That was so emotional and epic, Ray said through tears. Izuku-kun, now you can finally have a quirk and go with me to UA, Akane said happily. Thank you, but were you spying? Said Izuku, now calm. Let's eat, Ray said, changing the subject. Yes, Toshi and Izuku replied. After the calm dinner of the green-haired guy with his idol and the 2 todoroki women, he proceeded to go home but was stopped by someone who held him by the shoulder. Young Izuku, I'll be waiting for you tomorrow at the beach early in the morning to start your training, Toshi said to the green-haired guy, tousling his hair and exciting him. Of course, Mr. Toshi, Izuku said excitedly, bringing both arms forward, his eyes shining with unparalleled enthusiasm. It's nice to see Izuku so excited, don't you think, aka Kun? Ray said, slightly amused by the sight of the boy. She quickly noticed how her daughter covered her mouth with cheeks as red as tomatoes. Orion is so cute. Kemi, Akane said weakly, feeling her mother place her hand on her shoulder, feeling a bit embarrassed. Wow, you really found that boy, huh? Take care of him, Rei said in a strangely serious tone, watching as Akane returned her gaze. Tell me, will you let him go alone to that training with Toshi? Rei asked, smiling again, observing how Akane's aura returned to its diminishing state. No way. Hey, could I accompany them? The bicolor said, raising her hand defiantly. Sure, why not? Anyway, this will serve as training for the UA exam, Toshi said, giving his approval, tapping his fingers on Akane's forehead, making her pout childishly. You've really grown, little Akane-chan. You're no longer that timid girl from the past. You're undoubtedly a brave and determined young woman. I can't help but feel a little sad about it, Toshi said, cheerfully holding her shoulders. Everything good about me started with you, uncle. Take care of me now more than ever, Akane said shyly, playing with her fingers, showing an unusual side of her. We both will, Artemis. Don't worry. Well, I have to go. Thanks for the food, mother-in-law, the green-haired guy said, smiling, running towards Akane, kissing her hand, and then quickly leaving through the door. Be careful coming back. Tell your mom I'll see her tomorrow at Shibuya Station, Rei said, waving goodbye. Midoriya Izuku, Akane said, blushing, while an eye twitch appeared, unleashing a small flurry of frozen shurikens. 5,800 yen and another 4,500 for the hinges, Rei said, extending her hand to Akane, who took a stack of bills from her shirt pocket, sighing and leaving her embarrassment behind. You should control your temper, aka Kun. You won't be able to save for your wedding at this rate, Rei said, suppressing a laugh. I'm leaving too, Rei. Thanks for the food, and you, Akane-chan, go to the beach early, Toshi said, taking his muscular form and leaving through the door, tearing it off its hinges. Great, Akane said, both annoyed and excited, walking into her house. Mom. A voice said, entering at full speed. After leaving Akane's house, the green-haired guy walked for a while, thinking about how fun it was to spend time at the Todoroki household. His mind shifted to the last action he took before leaving, blushing atomic levels. However, before he could say anything, a voice froze him from behind, turning systematically to see it. Hey, stupid Deku, stop, the voice said, showing how intense blonde hair was waved by the evening wind, standing imposingly in front of Izuku. It's Kachan. Hi, Kak. Katagi. Yes, hi, Katagi. Do you need something? Izuku said, turning with a little fear, feeling a sea of doubts invading his head, preventing him from thinking clearly. Don't think that by saving me, I'll stop seeing you as useless. You were stupid to try to save me, the blonde said, annoyed. Stay away from me and don't play the hero with me again. You should give up your foolish dreams of being a hero. Understand? You don't have a quirk. What happened today was just luck. You could die later. You're not cut out for this, Kachan said, staring at Izuku with intense ruby orbs, conveying pure contempt that he had never felt before. Don't think that by saving me, I'll stop seeing you as useless. You were stupid to try to save me, the blonde said, annoyed. Stay away from me and don't play the hero with me again. You should give up your foolish dreams of being a hero. Understand? You don't have a quirk. What happened today was just luck. You could die later. You're not cut out for this, Kachan repeated. Sure. I'll take that into account. He just came to tell me that. It still hurts just like always. I'm such a fool, Izuku murmured, looking at nothing, losing some sparkle in his eyes. TSK, I also came to say thank you, the blonde said in a low tone, scratching her forearm anxiously. Of course, it's nothing, Kachan. After all, I'll be a hero. Although, of course, that might annoy you a bit, Izuku said, smiling slightly, causing Kachan to click her tongue. That's what annoys me about you, that you never give up, and you don't hold a grudge against me for what I've done to you. You're an idiot. Calm down, Kachan said, biting her lower lip. I didn't hear, could you repeat? Izuku said, approaching close enough not to bother her, looking curious about what she would say. It's nothing, Deku. Stupid nerd, Kachan said, turning around, stopping Izuku's intentions, and starting to walk away. Goodbye, Kachan. Be careful on the way. I'll be supporting you in the exams, Izuku said, sounding concerned. I can take care of myself, damn nerd. The blonde said in the distance, raising her hand threateningly, unleashing an explosion. Of course, Katagi, Izuku said, nostalgically laughing, continuing his way home. Upon reaching his house and trying to open the door, Izuku was abruptly pulled inside, seeing his mother's agonized face as the only thing present in his field of vision. Izuku, are you okay? I saw on the news that you saved Bakugo from a villain. Why did you risk so much? You had me worried. Did you get hurt? Don't do such irresponsible things again, okay? Inko said, very concerned for Izuku. Calm down, Mom. I'm fine. All Might ended up defeating the villain before he could do anything to me, the green-haired guy said, trying to calm his mother. You say it's nothing. How foolish you are. You worried me, and probably that girl too. Do you want to give me a heart attack? You're a bad son, you know, Inko said, sitting in a nearby chair, holding her aching head. Tell me, did you at least get his autograph? Inko asked, more calmly, pulling Izuku's ear with a smile. Yes, Mom, I got it, Izuku said excitedly, showing her the autograph, making her let go. Now you officially have every collectible item of All Might, Inko said gracefully. You have to be more careful. You can't give me such scares. I'm an old single mother, you know. I couldn't bear for my child to die like that, without giving me grandchildren or getting married, silly, Inko said, pinching Izuku's cheeks, embarrassing him. Sorry, Mom, that wasn't my intention, Izuku said, scratching his cheek remorsefully. Never mind, what's the use of scolding you considering you're as thick-headed as your father? But at least try not to be so suicidal, okay? Inko said, cheerfully taking Izuku's nose. Now tell me, what else happened? That joy isn't just because of the autograph or meeting your idol, Inko said, resting her face on her hand, looking at her son with great affection. You're very perceptive sometimes, Mom, Izuku said, amused. A mother always knows what's happening with her children, or maybe it's because your mother is a superhero, Inko said, smiling the same way Izuku did, causing his amusement. Izuku began telling his mother everything that had happened today, from his encounter with All Might, who turned out to be Toshi, to how he decided to pass on his power. Of course, he omitted the part about All for One. His mother was surprised, it was an understatement, she was literally speechless at what Izuku had said. Son, so the symbol of peace himself has recognized you as a real hero. I'm so proud of you, Inko said, shedding tears of happiness, covered in a mushy aura, hugging Izuku. My boy has started his journey to become a hero. I feel so happy, little Izuku, Inko said, rubbing her face against Izuku's. Yes, Mom, I know. It's amazing, but I'll go rest now. Tomorrow will be a day with many changes, Izuku said, affectionately hugging his mother. Hey, Izuku, Inko said, frailly pressing against her son's chest. It will be tough, you'll face many challenges. The world will try to make you give up, but promise me that you'll never, ever stop being the Izuku you are, Inko said, smiling brightly. I promise, Mom, Izuku said, returning the smile. Next day, 6 a.m., POV. After what happened the previous day, I was running excitedly towards the beach, abruptly stopped by the incessant fluttering in my stomach, unable to believe that the dream that had lingered in me for so many years was finally coming true. Upon arriving, I noticed that there was only one figure on the beach. Hello, young Izuku. Where's Akane? Toshi said, looking at my back, unable to see anyone else. Well, I thought she'd already be here, I said, bewildered, bringing my hand to my chin, then feeling an intense chill down my spine. Oh, Cammy, that's going to hurt, I said, covering my face in fear. Well, maybe she'll come later, Toshi said, downplaying it. It's easy for you to say. You didn't forget to wake her up. Candies, where's a candy store? I said, looking around, seeing nothing but the sea. Elsewhere, more precisely in Akane's house, Mrs. Ray was knocking on Akane's room door. Honey, weren't you going to train with Izuku and Toshi today? Mrs. Ray said, confused, yawning a bit. Ishiku didn't come for me, Mom, Akane said, talking while removing her face from her pillow. Well, it's already 6:10. I don't think he's coming or he is, Ray said, slowly opening Akane's door, noticing how she looked at the wall, holding her pillow with great force. It's 6:10 a.m. 6:10. Sure, silly, I'll wake you up every day, and you'll pay me like this, huh? Akane said, looking at her phone in an unusually sweet tone. Mom, could you make me lunch? I think I'll be late for training because of Orion, Akane said, jumping out of bed, passing by her mother, who stopped her by the arm. "Don't kill him," Rei said seriously, handing a toasted bread to Akane. "Oh, kill him? No, Mom, that would be too little for what I'll do to him," Akane said, tilting her head tenderly, showing a vein marking her forehead. "Hey, Tutu, I hope you're not in the bathroom," Akane said sweetly, kicking the bathroom door. "Rot in there, aka Kun, it's occupied," Toya said annoyed, making the bathroom temperature rise. "That's exactly what I wanted to hear, little brother. Out of the damn bathroom," Akane said, smiling wickedly, emitting a slight amount of her ice side, to which Toya obediently left, still soapy. "Izuku didn't come to wake her up. I thought we had already passed Protocol 3 a long time ago when she started waking him up instead," Toya said, wiping his face. "Disgusting, brother. You have more wounds than last week," Fuyumi said, yawning as she came out of her room and threw a shirt at Toya. "Thanks, Fuyu," Toya said, putting on the shirt quickly and making a disgusted face. "Why does it smell so bad?" he asked, repulsed. "It's Natsu's. If I remember correctly, it's from last week when I let him use my room with his friend," Fuyumi said, smiling mischievously. "Crazy Fuyoshi, they shouldn't let you near the kids," Toya said, incinerating the shirt. "Who, me? The sweet Miss Fuyumi, a prodigy in psychiatry and psychopedagogy. Come on, big brother, no one would believe that I'm a degenerate lover of yaoi and gore, who doesn't bathe and is also a geek with no social life," Fuyumi said, laughing sweetly like a cute puppy. "That's why it's good to maintain a flawless social image, unlike your temperamental top 15 hero," she added, changing her body language to a more indifferent one and putting on her glasses. "It's time to eat, Toya, come down," Rei said, pleased with her children's discussion, pushing Toya towards the stairs. "Hooray, son of a gun, it's time to eat in Valhalla," Fuyumi exclaimed enthusiastically, shouting at the top of her lungs. "Language, Fuyumi," Rei said, throwing her sandal at Fuyumi's head. "How boring, Mom," Fuyumi said, falling down the stairs. Later. Back with me, I was listening to the training I would undergo when I felt a chill in my body. I saw a figure sitting in the sand. "What happened, young Izuku?" Toshi asked. "It's nothing, let's continue," I said, ignoring the chill. "As I was saying, your training will involve cleaning the entire beach from top to bottom in less than 10 months, Toshi said, flexing his muscles. "But don't you think it's too much for just me?" I asked, overwhelmed by the task. "To be a hero, you must make some sacrifices, one of them is physical. So don't complain. Anyway, Akane will help you with this difficult task," Toshi said, giving a reassuring thumbs up. "That comforts me," I said sarcastically but happy to have her company. Suddenly, the atmosphere turned colder, and my feet began to freeze. I turned to see Akane with a sinister look, emitting ice from her right side and fire from her left. "Midoriya Izuku, could you tell me why you didn't come to pick me up at my house?" Akane asked angrily. "I thought you would already be here," I said, shrinking in fear. "Next time, try to think better," Akane said, stopping the use of her quirk and pulling Izuku's cheeks. "You're a silly boy. Orion was so excited to come and train with you. Why don't you pay more attention?" she said in a childish manner, shaking Izuku a bit. "Okay, but could you unfreeze me?" I pleaded, feeling the intense cold in my legs. "Oh, sure," Akane said, returning to her neutral expression and emitting a small flame. "Did it hurt? Are you okay?" "I see you're fine," she said, massaging Izuku's feet carefully. "Yes, don't worry," I said, relieved. "That's good. Now, why did you leave me, Orion?" "You're an idiot," Akane said, shaking me again, this time by my shirt, while crying anime style. "Sorry," I said, scratching my cheek. While Toshi could only laugh at the almost couple-like scene, after everything calmed down, Toshi spoke. "If you like, you can start," Toshi said, returning to his slender form. "Yes, sensei," we both said in unison. Toshi-sensei didn't say it twice. Akane and I began the planned training/torture. At first, neither of us could do anything because most of the debris consisted of old refrigerators, junk cars, truck tires, and old filing cabinets. Seeing this, Akane thought it would be easier if we cooperated, making her job easier. 5 months later, beach. Izuku and Akane could be seen on a large pile of garbage, and around them, the beach was completely clean. They cheered loudly as they had finally finished this arduous and exhaustive task. "Well done, young ones. I'm proud of you. You completed the training in half the time, showing that you have a great tireless spirit, Toshi-sensei said, proud of both of them. Thanks, Toshi-sensei, I'm flattered, Izuku said, falling unconscious. Yeah, thanks, uncle, Akane said, also losing consciousness. Minutes later, Izuku and Akane began to wake up from unconsciousness, feeling their heads spinning incessantly. What happened? They both said, getting up at the same time. Are you okay? Of course, I am. Don't mimic me. I'm not mimicking you, Orion/Artemis, they both said, annoyed, making Toshi smile. They just fainted, but young Izuku, it's time for you to inherit One for All. You finally have all the requirements to obtain it, Toshi-sensei said, taking on his muscular form. I'm ready, Izuku said, determined. You'll finally get your quirk, Akane said excitedly. Yes, Izuku exclaimed with excitement. Well, young Midoriya, you just have to do one thing, All Might said seriously. I'll do anything, Izuku said confidently. Eat this hair, All Might said, bewildering both young heroes. Izuku was silent. Akane was in the same state. What? They both said in unison. Don't think anything weird. It's just that to inherit One for All, young Izuku has to receive some of my DNA, All Might explain the situation. Oh, that explains everything, Izuku said, analyzing what All Might had said. Believe me, this is the least disgusting and traumatic way I could find to do it. Besides, my hair tastes like chicken, All Might said, raising his eyebrows continuously and directing the hair towards Izuku. If you say so, Izuku said, taking the hair and eating it. Izuku-kun, how do you feel? Akane asked curiously. Well, normal. I don't feel any changes, Izuku said calmly. Let me explain. One for All takes time to adapt to the body, but I think in about 2 hours, it will be fully adjusted to your body, All Might said. Alright, but could you give me a shirt? Mine got torn while training, Izuku said, embarrassed. All Might and Akane hadn't noticed that Izuku wasn't wearing a shirt, which blushed the latter. 2 hours later. After the 2 hours passed, All Might asked Izuku to throw a punch to see if any changes had occurred in his body. He followed the hero's instructions, but nothing happened. So, All Might said, remember, Izuku, to use One for All, you have to clench your buttocks and shout from the depths of your heart, smash, All Might said, throwing a punch at the sea, creating a massive wave. Izuku got into position while All Might and Akane cheered him on. Come on, Izuku-kun, you can do it. You'll be number one, Akane shouted. Izuku, remember why you're my successor. All Might yelled. Remember, clench the buttocks and shout from the depths of the heart, smash. Izuku thought and said, delivering a punch to the sea, creating a large vortex in the middle of the ocean. After the punch, Izuku turned to see All Might and Akane. Izuku's fist was red with some rainbow-colored lines extending along his arm. After those lines disappeared, it could be observed that Izuku's arm was slightly swollen but nothing serious. Well done, young man. I'm surprised that on your first try, you didn't dislocate your arm. It seems that One for All adapted perfectly to your body, All Might said, proud and returning to his slender form. Wow, Izuku, you have such great power, exclaimed Akane in amazement. Young ones, it's better if we rest for today. Go home, and tomorrow we'll resume training, said Toshi, to which both nodded. After a few minutes, Izuku and Akane headed to the bicolor's house. Upon arrival, they began to enter the Todoroki residence, but all the lights were off, which puzzled them. Just as Akane was about to turn on the lights, someone else beat them to it. Surprise, said some familiar voices. Mom, Dad, what are you doing? Asked Akane, confused. Toshi told us that today he would give Izuku his power, so your father and I decided to celebrate, said Rei, smiling. I had planned to take Izuku to a special place for men, but your mother refused, saying she wouldn't corrupt Izuku before he married Akane, said Enji, a bit annoyed. Of course, I wouldn't allow you to take away his innocence before he marries Akane, said Rei, a little upset with her husband. Mom, Dad, said Akane, embarrassed. Mother, where are my siblings? Asked Izuku, teasing Akane. Well, son-in-law, Fuyumi is working, and Natsuo is with a girl as always, said Rei. I hope Natsuo gives me grandchildren soon, added Enji. I also hope he makes me an uncle soon, said Izuku. Well, Mom, what do you have prepared for us? Asked the bicolor, trying to change the subject. You'll like it. First, I prepared katsudon for Izuku, and for you, Akane, I made cold soba, said Rei. Mrs. Rei's katsudon, said Izuku drooling. Mom's cold soba, said Akane, also drooling. Let's eat then, said Enji. After eating, Izuku said goodbye and went home to rest. 5 months later, Izuku began to understand and develop One for All. He achieved this by tirelessly training with All Might and occasionally with Endeavor, who taught him some hand-to-hand combat. His greatest achievement was developing Full Cowl, a technique that allowed him to control a part of his power to avoid injury during combat. He mastered 12% of One for All's total power with this technique. Akane also improved her quirk significantly. With her mother's help, she enhanced her right side using an industrial freezer to increase resistance to extreme cold. Endeavor trained her to use flames efficiently, regulate temperatures, and counteract the drawbacks of both ice and fire. Young ones, tomorrow is the entrance exam for UA. Are you ready? Hoshi asked with enthusiasm. Of course, uncle. We'll show everyone the results of our training, said Akane, raising her fist. I'll make him proud that I am his successor, said Izuku, determined and happy. All right, go rest. Tomorrow will be a tough day, said Toshi. The next day, after All Might's training, Izuku and Akane were ready for the UA entrance exam. Izuku was on his way to Akane's house when Mrs. Rei welcomed him. Izuku, you're here for Akane, right? Rei said, smiling. Yes, mother-in-law, where is she? I asked politely. She's in her room getting ready. If you want, you can wait for her, said Rei. No need for me to wait, said Akane, coming down the stairs. Let's go then, or we'll be late, I said calmly. At least you lost the habit of falling asleep, Akane teased. Yes, I'm grateful for that. But anyway, let's go, I said with a nervous laugh. Yes, let's go, said Akane. We headed to UA. On reaching the entrance, we ran into Kachan, who approached us with an annoyed expression. Deku, what are you doing here? You're not thinking of taking the exams without a quirk, are you? Kachan said, irritated. You're wrong, Kachan. I do have a quirk, I said, not letting myself be intimidated. Don't lie, Deku. How can you have a quirk? Kachan said, even more annoyed. It's something I can't tell you, but you'll see, I said confidently. Before Kachan could respond, Akane intervened. Let's go, Izuku-kun. We'll be late, Akane said, pulling me. I just followed her, leaving Kachan behind. As I thought about the upcoming exam, I stumbled over a stone in the path. Akane tried to support me, but before she could do so, someone else stopped me. Sorry for using my quirk on you, but it would be bad luck for you to fall on this day, said a brown-haired girl with a permanent blush. Don't worry, and thanks, I said gratefully. It's nothing. Let's do our best in the exams, she said with a smile. Let's go, Izuku-kun, said Akane. Yeah, let's go, I said excitedly. Arriving at the classroom, we saw many aspiring heroes. Present Mike, the class teacher, handed us the theoretical exams. After the theoretical exam, Present Mike explained the practical exam, where we had to destroy robots ranging from 1 to 4 points. There was also a 0-point robot the size of a building. Fortunately, Akane-chan and I were assigned to the same zone. Okay, guys, all ready? Said Present Mike with enthusiasm. This will be interesting, said Akane, excited. Yeah, I hope so, I said, equally excited. Akane and I started preparing to begin. One for all full cal 10%, I said in my mind. At that moment, Akane and I started running at an impressive speed, while others looked at us strangely. Present Mike interrupted their confusion. Let's go, move. In real life, there's no countdown, and they know it, said Present Mike. I began destroying 3 and 4-point robots quickly thanks to One for All, while Akane froze and then incinerated them. When we had enough points, we decided to save the people along the way. As the exam was about to end, the 0-point robot appeared. We all started running, but I heard someone scream. Turning around, I saw the girl who saved me from falling at the entrance, trapped under debris with the robot about to crush her. I looked at Akane-chan, who understood my intention. We started running towards her. Akane-chan created an ice ramp, and I shouted, Detroit Smash, using 12% of One for All. By hitting the robot, it began to fall dramatically, while I slid down an ice ramp created by Akane-chan to avoid getting hurt. Time is over, said Present Mike to indicate the end of the time. After the time was up, President Mike informed us that the results would be available in a few days. After leaving UA, Akane and I headed home. A few days later. POV Izuku. In these last days, I was very excited and impatient for the UA letter to arrive. I was sure I would get in, but I couldn't help feeling nervous about the possibility of not making it. Akane's parents invited me on a trip to the beach, but I declined. The reason was that I wanted to spend more time with my mother. Due to All Might's training, my time with her had reduced a lot. Right now, I was lifting weights in the room when my mom hurried in. Izuku, the letter is here, Mom said, agitated. Calm down, Mom, it's not that big of a deal, I said, trying to reassure her. Sorry, son, I just got excited because you're finally fulfilling one of your dreams, Mom said, apologizing for startling me. Mom, could I open the letter in my room, please? I asked. Of course, son, Mom said, handing me the letter. In my room, I locked the door and carefully opened the letter. Something slipped out, and suddenly, a hologram of All Might appeared. Hello, young Izuku. Sorry for not contacting you these past few days, but I had a lot of paperwork and people to save, All Might said with his characteristic smile. A hand in the hologram gestured as if telling me to continue. Cough, cough, it seems we don't have much time. So, I'll just say you were the top scorer in the entrance exam with 86 points. But that's not all. The true goal was to observe the heroism of each candidate, and you, young Izuku, demonstrated the highest ideals of a hero, self-sacrifice. Because of this, you were awarded an extra 60 points, making a total of 146 points, nearly reaching my score of 150. So, young Izuku, this is your hero school. We'll be expecting you on Monday, and your class will be 1A, All Might said proudly. Yes, I did it. I must call Akane-chan to see how she did, I said, about to make a call, but before I could, I received a call. Izuku-kun, said the voice. Yes, it's me, Akane-chan. How did it go? I asked joyfully. Well, I did it, Akane exclaimed. And how many points did you get? I asked curiously. I got 60 points, but for helping rescue that girl, I got an extra 40 points, she said excitedly. So, 100 points. Congratulations, Akane-chan, I congratulated her. And you, Izuku-kun, how many did you get? Akane asked. I got 86 points and 60 for rescue, so a total of 146 points, I proudly stated. Wow, you did really well. What class did you get? Akane asked. In 1A, and you? I replied. Awesome, we're in the same class, Akane said. I just hope we don't end up with Kachan, I nervously said. Don't worry. If he tries anything, I'll freeze him like an igloo, Akane threatened. I'd prefer you not to, I said cautiously. After that, Akane and I spent the afternoon talking about our future classmates and which hero would be our teacher. Monday morning. I was getting ready for the big day, the day I had been waiting for my whole life. Finally, I would go to UA, the best hero school in the world. Now, I stood at the door, determined to leave, but my mother stopped me. Son, do you have everything? Mom asked, with tears in her eyes. Yes, Mom, I have everything, I said. Do you have your scarf? Mom asked. Yes, Mom, I have my scarf, I said with a smile. Son, Mom said. Yes, Mom, I replied. You're my greatest pride. Good luck, Mom said, wiping away her tears. Yes, Mom, see you, I said with a smile. Appearance of Inko, who never neglected herself. Appearance of Inko, who never neglected herself after leaving home. I went to pick up Akane-chan. Upon arrival, Mr. Enji opened the door. Hello, father-in-law. I've come to pick up Akane-chan, I said with a smile. Mr. Enji didn't say anything. Father-in-law, are you okay? I said, concerned. Of course, I'm fine. Life is good. I have a good wife, amazing kids, and a wonderful and strong son-in-law who will give me strong grandchildren. Oh, and congratulations on being the first in the entrance exam, Mr. Enji said as we fist bumped. How did you find out about the results? Did Akane-chan tell you? I asked, doubtful. No, she didn't tell me anything because she was worried about how I would react, he said with a smile. I don't understand. What would you have done if you had found out? I asked, curious. Well, I would have taken you to celebrate at a stripper club. What else? He said with a mischievous smile. At that moment, the atmosphere felt as cold as the North Pole. When we turned to see where it was coming from, we saw Mrs. Ray and Akane-chan emitting an icy aura while smiling sweetly. This scared us so much that Mr. Enji and I were about to be shot out the door together, but Mrs. Ray stopped us with an ice barrier and pulled Mr. Enji into the living room. "Kids, you can go to school if you want. I'll talk to my hubby about some couple issues," Mrs. Ray said with a tender smile but with a killer and icy aura combined. Sure, mother-in-law, we're leaving," I said, pulling Akane-chan's sleeve. "Don't leave, please help me, don't leave me alone," Mr. Enji shouted like a child. "I'm sorry, father-in-law, but I still want to live a bit longer. I have to become the number one hero." "I'm sorry," I said, leaving through the door with Akane-chan. Once outside, Akane-chan began to speak. "Izuku-kun, do you like someone?" Akane asked. "Well, yes and no. The truth is, as you already know, I've never had a girlfriend, and I don't know what it feels like to be in love with someone," I replied, analyzing. "I see," Akane said, a bit disheartened. "Why do you ask?" I said, interested. "Oh, just curious." "Let's hurry, we're about to be late," Akane said, avoiding the topic. "I think you're right, we should hurry," I said, activating full cowl. "What are you doing, Izuku-kun?" Akane asked, confused by my action. "Get on my back, we'll get to school faster that way," I said, kneeling for Akane to get on. "Are you sure about this?" Akane said, skeptical. "Yes, of course," I said confidently. "All right," Akane said, getting on my back. "Are you ready?" I said, preparing to jump. "Yes," Akane said, holding on tight. As I said this, I started jumping across the rooftops, trying not to be seen because I could get in trouble for using my quirk. After a few minutes, we arrived at UA. Trying to land on a nearby roof, I accidentally slipped, causing the pressure from the jumps to send us speeding uncontrollably. Akane-chan quickly tried to stop us with an ice barrier, but it was futile. In the end, we crashed into a window, surprisingly not breaking it. Falling, we landed in some bushes. "Akane-chan, are you okay?" I said, rubbing my head. "Sure, Izuku-kun. In fact, it was quite fun," Akane said, laughing while rubbing her head. "We better run," I said, getting up and picking Akane up on my back again. Upon reaching the front of the class, I was exhausted from all the running. I could only put Akane down and collapsed on the floor. Akane helped me get up, and after a few seconds, I could finally stand. "Let's go into class," I said to Akane. "Sure," Akane said happily. Upon entering, we saw Kachan being scolded by a tall guy with glasses. "Come on, girl, get your feet off the seat, that's disrespectful," the glasses guy said. "And if I don't want to, what will you do, Four Eyes?" Kachan said defiantly. "My name is not Four Eyes, it's Tenya Ida," the glasses guy said. In that moment, Kachan sees us and rushes to try one of his explosions on me, but before he succeeds, a small barrier appears in front of me. "Listen, Blondie, from now on, you won't bother Izuku-kun again, or I'll roast you like a chicken and then freeze you like an iceberg. Got it?" Akane says in a cold and annoyed tone. "Who do you think you are, you half-and-half brat? You're no one to tell me to stop bothering this useless nerd," Kachan says, irritated and setting off explosions. "Hey, you're the guy who saved me. It was amazing how you jumped to hit that robot and took it down," a brunette interrupts the confrontation between Kachan and Akane. "Thanks, but I don't think it was that impressive," I say, embarrassed. "Of course, it was, Izuku-kun. I'm glad you're humble in these situations, unlike someone I know who thinks they're the most powerful person in the world and invincible," Akane says, looking at Kachan. "You bicolor nuisance, you'll pay for this," Kachan says, about to attack, but someone interrupts them. "If you're here to play, better leave my class. I don't need spoiled kids in my care," a man inside a sleeping bag, resembling a caterpillar, says. "Who are you?" I ask the man. "I'm Aizawa Shota. I'll be your tutor. But first, put on these training suits and go outside," the man says, emerging from the sleeping bag with blue suits with white and blue stripes. "Wait, you're the hero Eraserhead," I exclaim. "That's right, kid. Now go change," he says, unenthusiastically. After that, we went to the changing rooms. In there, I met some of my classmates, including Kirishima, a cheerful and optimistic guy, Denki, equally cheerful but a bit perverted, and finally Mineta, a quite lascivious and perverted guy. "Guys, look what I found," Mineta says, pointing to a hole in the wall. Is it what I think it is? Denki asks. Yeah, it leads to the girls' changing rooms, Mineta says, trying to peek. Mineta, that's not manly, Kirishima says. Mineta-san, that's not worthy of a hero, Ida says, making strange arm movements. Mineta-kun, I'd advise stopping if you don't want to lose your eye, I nervously say. Why do you say that, Izuku? Denki asks. Well, it's because. I couldn't finish when Mineta screamed in pain. When we checked, Mineta had a small ice needle in his eye. I warned you, I said amused. But who could do this? Denki wonders. I think it was Akane-chan, she hates perverts, I say, nervously laughing. After going outside, we see the teacher with a ball. All right, brats, now we'll have a physical fitness test, Aizawa-sensei says. What about the entrance ceremony or the meeting with the counselor? The brunette asks. Those are things a hero shouldn't waste time on. Your time here is limited to just 3 years, which is too short to bother with such mundane things. Understand? Aizawa-sensei says. The brunette nods vigorously. Okay, remember doing something like this since elementary school, but now you'll use your quirks. Show me your abilities so we can plan individual training for each of you. Got it? Aizawa-sensei says. We all shout in unison, yes. Music playing for the quirk test. Hey, pointing at me. You're Midoriya Izuku, right? I nod. Since you ranked first in the entrance exam, you'll set the example. Tell me the maximum distance you can throw a ball, Aizawa-sensei asks. 58 meters, sensei, I reply calmly. Now, throw the ball using your quirk inside the circle, Aizawa-sensei says, handing me the ball. I walk to the center of the circle while Akane-chan wishes me luck. When I'm ready to throw, I think, I'm ready, 1 for all full cal 12%, as green sparks cover my body. Wow, that's amazing, some classmates say. That's nothing. Izuku-kun isn't using his full power, Akane says in a cold and cutting tone. Before they could respond, they heard me scream at the top of my lungs, Delaware Smash, I said while taking my index finger and thumb, contracting them, and then releasing, launching the ball with a burst of air that hit it and sent it skyrocketing into the sky, impressing everyone. Wow, that was cool. This is going to be fun, a pink-skinned girl said. You think so? Well, let's make it more fun. The one who finishes last will be expelled, Aizawa-sensei said with a serious tone. What the teacher said surprised and scared us at the same time. I was sad, not because I was going to be expelled, but because one of my classmates was. But you can't do this, the pink girl protested. Of course, I can. Here at UA, teachers have complete freedom to grade students as we see fit, just as you have the freedom to use your quirks freely on the premises. Welcome to UA, Aizawa-sensei said with a creepy smile. After the teacher's announcement, we started various activities, with the first being a flat race. Flat race 50m. First race, Midoriya Izuku vs Bakugo Katsuki. Alright, Izuku, Katsuki, get into position, the teacher said. Damn Deku, I won't lose to you, Katsuki said, annoyed. Start, the teacher said, unenthusiastically. We started running, and I finished in 3.56 thanks to using full cal, while Katsuki finished in 4.30, which annoyed him. In the next one, I'll beat you, damn Deku. Second race, Tenya Ida vs Tsuyu Asui. Winner, Ida, 3.04. Third race, Mashirao Ojiro vs Mezzo Shoji. Winner, Ojiro, 5.49. Fourth race, Yuga Aoyama vs Mina Ashido. Winner, Mina, 4.86. Fifth race, Kaminari Denki vs Eijiro Kirishima. Winner, Denki, 7.03. Sixth match, Koji Kota vs Rikido Sato. Winner, Sato, 5.06. Seventh race, Kyoka Jiro vs Momo Yaoyorozu. Winner, Jiro, 7.04. Eighth race, Fumikage Tokoyami vs Hanta Sero. Winner, Sero, 6.76. Ninth race, Minoru Mineta vs Toru Hagakure. Winner, Toru, 7.50. 10th match, Ochako Uraka vs Akane Todoroki. Good luck, Akane, the brunette said while adjusting her clothes. Likewise, Akane said coldly. Begin, the teacher said. Upon the signal, Uraka started running, while Akane slid on a path of ice that she created, reaching the finish line in 4.20. Uraka arrived in 7.15. It's time to measure your strength, said the teacher. Physical strength test. Izuku, 250 kilograms. Wow, Izuku, I didn't think you were so strong, said Sero. It's nothing, I said, embarrassed. Shoji, 540 kilograms. Wow, you're quite strong, Shoji, I said amazed. It's all thanks to training, and you're stronger too, Shoji said. Thanks, I said, smiling. Sero, 50 kilograms. Aoyama, 40 kilograms. Mina, 46 kilograms. Asui, 56 kilograms. Ida, 54 kilograms. Uraka, 42 kilograms. Ojiro, 70 kilograms. Denki, 53 kilograms. Kirishima, 54 kilograms. Koji, 50 kilograms. Sato, 64 kilograms. Jiro, 40 kilograms. Tokoyami, 58 kilograms. Akane, 52 kilograms. Toru, 40 kilograms. Katagi, 52 kilograms. Mineta, 25 kilograms. Momo, 40 kilograms. Winner, Shoji, 540 kilograms. Next test, lateral jump, come, said the teacher. Lateral jump. I excelled in this test. Long jump. In this test, we all did decently. Ball throw. Alright, kids, it's time for the throw. Izuku, you're up, said Aizawa-sensei, calling me. Yes, teacher, I said. Begin, Aizawa-sensei said unenthusiastically. Delaware smash, I said, launching the ball with the burst I created with my fingers. Aizawa-sensei, what was the distance? Mina asked interested. It was 1.3 kilometers, he said, showing the meter to the whole class. Wow, that's power, Kirishima said. Yes, Izuku is very strong, Denki said. Now it's Mina's turn, Aizawa-sensei said. This continued with all my classmates until it was Akane-chan's turn. Now it's Akane Todoroki's turn, step forward, Aizawa-sensei said. Alright, I'm coming, Akane said coldly. Ready? Aizawa asked. Yes, Akane replied. Begin, Aizawa said. Akane-chan created an ice ramp to place the ball on, then propelled it with her flames. How did I do? Akane asked neutrally. 950 meters, Aizawa said. Wow, that's really good, almost as much as Izuku, Mina said. Yes, she's the second farthest with the ball, Asui said. These comments bothered Kachan a lot. Finally, Katagi Bakugo, said teacher Aizawa. I'm coming, old man, said Kachan irritably. Alright, begin, said Aizawa-sensei. At that moment, Kachan started creating explosions with her hands. Die, said Kachan to throw the ball. 705 meters, Katagi, said Aizawa-sensei. I can't believe I'm below the nerd and half, she said, blushing. Calm down, said Aizawa-sensei, levitating his bandages from his neck. TSK, whatever, she said more calmly. I'm too lazy to tell you the results, so I'll show you, said Aizawa-sensei, revealing a machine displaying the results. Results. First place, Izuku Midoriya. Second place, Akane Todoroki. Third place, Katagi Bakugo. Fourth place, Momo Yaoyorozu. Fifth place, Tenya Ida. Sixth place, Fumikage Tokoyami. Seventh place, Mezo Shoji. Eighth place, Mashirao Ojiro. Ninth place, Eijiro Kirishima. 10th place, Mina Ashido. 11th place, Uraka Ochako. 12th place, Koji Koda. 13th place, Rikido Sato. 14th place, Tsuyu Asui. 15th place, Yuga Aoyama. 16th place, Hanta Sero. 17th place, Denki Kaminari. 18th place, Kyoka Jiro. 19th place, Toru Hagakure. 20th place, Minoru Mineta. Phew, that was close, said the invisible girl. Oh no, I won't have to leave, and I haven't seen any boobs yet, said Mineta, crying bloody tears. Damn Deku, how did you become so strong? Said Kachan, trying to hit me but stopped by an ice wall from Akane-chan and Aizawa-sensei's bandages. Calm down, said Aizawa-sensei. TSK, what are these bandages made of? Said Kachan, unable to move. They're made of carbon fiber, But don't make me use my quirk without a good reason, said teacher Aizawa. Fine, said Kachan. By the way, the expulsion thing was a lie, said Aizawa-sensei. We were all surprised, but someone spoke. You know it was obvious it was a lie, said Momo. If you knew it was a lie, why were you tense? Said Aizawa-sensei. She didn't answer that. Well, that's it. Go back to the classroom, said Aizawa-sensei. The day was normal after that until the end. Akane-chan and I were talking about how Mr. Enji would react, but we were interrupted. Wait, are you going to the station? Two voices said. No, in fact, I was about to use my quirk to jump over the rooftops, I said calmly with a smile. That's something irresponsible, said the voice, which was Ida. I know, but I'd rather rescue Akane-chan's father than follow the rules, I said nervously. What do you mean, save him? Said Ida, confused. Long story, I have to go, I said, crouching down as Akane-chan climbed onto my back. Wait, why are you doing this? Said the brunette. Sorry, Uraka, Ida, see you later, I said, starting to jump over the rooftops. After jumping for a few minutes, we arrived in front of Akane-chan's house. Upon entering, we saw Mr. Enji, all bandaged with bruises all over his body. Father-in-law, looks like you had a tough time, I said with compassion. Izuku, my first advice as your father-in-law is never to anger a todoroki woman because you'll get very hurt from it, he said, rubbing his side. And how did it go? Said Mrs. Ray from the kitchen. Mother-in-law, well, I said, recounting my day. That was my first day at UA and my next step to become the symbol of peace and the #1 hero.